The Four Knights of the Apocalypse, Chapter 154, Separation. And Arthur, with a piercing gaze and a serene voice that becomes harsh as he continues, says, "I assume you know why I've summoned you again. Because you disobeyed my orders. I was quite clear when I told you to avoid a confrontation with the 7 deadly sins." And promptly Ironside and Pelgart respond, saying that they only wanted to eliminate those who pose a threat to His Highness and the Eternal Kingdom. However, Arthur emphasizes that Ironside still doesn't understand, that he doesn't know anything about them. However, the Red Knight believes that he does understand, and that this is why they need to act as soon as possible. Faced with Ironside's stance, Arthur decides to show rather than tell, and as he makes a movement with his fingers, something strange and unusual suddenly appears in the room, drawing the attention of the 2 knights. They immediately questioned what it was, which exuded an intense smell of blood. And what was underneath that cloth shocks even the soul of those 2, who, perplexed, can only describe it as brutal. And the state of that body was so terrifying that Ironside and Pelgart were unable to confirm that it was Worldon's corpse. But Arthur, analyzing the traces of magic left on that body, confirms that his opponent was one of the 7 deadly sins, probably the sin of laziness and king of the Harlegan fairies. And that this was therefore the fate of those who dared to challenge the deadly sins, for they were not called legendary heroes by chance. So Arthur asks once again, "Now do you understand?" That their power is much greater than that of humans. However, Ironside still can't accept that his king is literally telling him to let them do whatever they want. And Arthur replies, "For your current state, I have no choice but to say so." Current state, but what does that mean, was what Ironside immediately wondered. And so his king replies, "Oh yes, there is a way for you to become capable of fighting them. But to do that, you just need to abandon your humanity. Just like Beltrape and Worldon did." At that moment, something surprising and terrifying began to happen. Worldon's corpse was moving. And not only that, Worldon's body was regenerating, returning to its normal state. And in the end, the sorceress spits the ancestral elixir out of her body. Worldon, the White Knight of the 4 dangers, was alive and had fulfilled her mission to steal the elixir. Arthur happily congratulated the sorceress, saying that she had done a great job, and ended by asking what his impressions were after fighting King. He was incredibly strong, just as expected, Worldon replied, but the sorceress also tells him that a very unexpected event happened. That Percival of the 4 Knights of the Apocalypse was resurrected. And this information leaves Ironside in shock, unable to believe how it was possible that he was still alive. And worst of all, Mortlack's sacrifice was in vain. Pelgart isn't so surprised, after all, and had told him that Percival was alive, so in thought he expresses his joy. But then the look on Pelgart's face changes when he hears Arthur say that it's his fault too. Without understanding, Ironside asks what His Highness was talking about. But Arthur is very direct when he says, "No more theater, because I already know that you have lost your loyalty to me. But I still value your abilities, and that includes your humanity. So I'm not impressed by your betrayal." But, smiling, Pelgart wonders what he considers betrayal. While on her side, Worldon says that it's shameful. She says that it has been verified and confirmed that he intentionally released Percival's allies. That they couldn't find anything, not even their remains at the site. And when she retraced her memories of that place, she discovered that he had conspired with Gauther and staged a play. And surprised, her friend Ironside asks if it's really true. And Pelgart, for his part, had no choice but to fight. However, Arthur tells him that he doesn't need to go to that extreme. The King of Camelot tells them that he has no intention of blaming them for what happened, but instead wants to give them another chance, 2 choices. For what matters is what happens from now on. And what they see next leads them to despair. The figures of Diodora, Ironside's precious son, and Fiona, Pelgart's loving wife, appear to remind them of something very important. The reason why they fight as the 4 dangers. That is, to protect their loved ones. To protect the eternal kingdom where those they love live. However, as long as the 7 deadly sins continue to exist, and even the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse come back to life, all this peace and quiet will crumble sooner or later. So Arthur asks, what is your choice? Continue fighting and die as humans, and thus lose this kingdom and your loved ones, or renounce your humanity and live to protect this world and the people you love. And as he waits for Ironside and Pelgart to reply, Arthur stands up and digresses towards the 2 of them. They remain in a state of shock as they stare at the most important thing to them. Finally, Arthur makes it clear that the decision is theirs alone, and that no matter what they choose, he will not judge them. However, they can only go one of two ways. The power of chaos manifests itself from Arthur, awaiting their decision. Pelgard says that what his king was doing was despicable, but Arthur says that he doesn't care about his loyalty, but whether or not he will be useful for his purposes. And Pelgard agrees with him. Ironside asks his king if he really is strong enough to protect his son. And Arthur promises him that he will. And faced with this answer, Ironside then says that she agrees with him too. And for Arthur, that was a wise decision. Chaos like a parasite literally invades the bodies of Ironside and Pelgard. And at that moment, all that can be heard is the deafening sound of those two screaming. And while contemplating that moment, Worlden ends up saying that it should have happened a long time ago. But Arthur explains that the consent of the person in question is necessary for the contract. And besides, they were much prouder than Worlden and Beltrape. However, Arthur also admits that he was hesitant to do it because of that useless human side of him. More importantly, perhaps he was hesitant to absorb it. That is, the useless humanity inside me. And the contract finally done, Worlden asks his companions how the experiment went. But Ironside just asks her to shut up. And very happily, Arthur approached, congratulating them both. For now they were truly members of the Four Dangers. And to Ironside he says that Diodora will certainly be very proud of him. However, the Red Knight simply says, "Your Highness, who is this Diodora?" While Pelgard, for his part, also asks, "Your Majesty, who is this woman?" Ironside and Pelgard, the proud knights, renounce their humanity in order to obtain the power they need to protect the Eternal Kingdom and their loved ones, but the price they pay for this power is too high, the total oblivion of those they love the most. Continued in the next chapter, entitled Reunion.